a lot of people listening are very much purpose-led entrepreneurs and small business owners. They're doing the work that they're doing because they really love it or they had the personal experience of it. And I know your story already. I know that we've talked about it, but for people who don't know, can you kind of just give us a little bit of a background of what you do and how you started with it?
Yeah, of course. So I run Mamawell, which is I guess, a fitness platform company for women. It's focused on women and it supports them through pregnancy, postpartum. Actually, a lot of women who come to me are also trying to conceive. Pregnancy, postpartum, and then beyond, just for life. I'm moving into that postpartum phase, which, we've all got the menopause coming up in the future. So it will continue to support women through their lives. I write for Women's Health and the Times on a variety of mostly female focused fitness topics. And yeah, I'm a member of the Women's Health Collective, which is their team of like expert trainers. So we work together to provide content for women.
You are helping women at different stages. It's not just one. I think a lot of times we kind of get stuck on I'm helping with this one thing at this one time, but actually if you can help people on their journey, it's so valuable to them because they know that, people who were with you years ago, maybe they are going into menopause and they know that I have someone that can support me in that. And I feel that's it's a different way of doing stuff that we don't think about. Like there's so much possibility with business.
I fell
I
into
love
this
that.
way quite kind of naturally. I think there are a couple of different people in my industry. There are people who are the pregnancy expert and they will always do that even when they're like 80. They'll be the pregnancy expert. I was pregnant at a trainer and I was qualified to train pregnant women, but I was seeing it in my body and I was like, wow, isn't this amazing? How can I adapt? Da, da, da. Then I had the baby and it was this recovery, which I found really interesting. That's what led me to start Mamawell, kind of because so many women were coming to me saying, just local ladies in my area. It just started with a boot camp in my local park. And then actually after, like, it just carried on. And when I became pregnant again, that's when I started filming my pregnancy program and then the postpartum recovery again. So I actually did it the other way round. I first had the idea for the online subscription, which actually 2019, so it's 4 years ago now. So before people were doing loads online, I wanted to reach more people. And like my whole career, I was a dancer before and a dance teacher. I kind of got paid by the hour. So I was always showing up. You can get paid really well to be a teacher, but if I went on holiday, I would never get paid. If I was ill, I had to find cover. And I could see my life with a baby and maybe then two. How am I going to do that? And then, and then I suddenly thought, oh, I can reach way more people if I do online. And I'd seen a few, they were kind of coming out then. So I filmed this postpartum one and it went from there. And then when I got pregnant the second time, I was like, right, I know I've got to film the pregnancy one in my pregnancy. And then I'll have the whole package. And then so that's how it kind of grew. And now I've got the three subscriptions. And then I thought, what's next? And so I made this thing, Club Mamawell, which is kind of your follow on. It's for all women.
You did a really interesting switch because you said it was 2019. So you were pre-trend when everyone was going online with fitness. And you really had to convince people to do an online workout and the merits of it and the effectiveness. What was it like when you first mentioned that to your group of women that you'd been working with in person? Like, what was the onboarding from in person to online like, or was it totally different clients? What was the first,
Yeah.
let's say, 3 months of that like?
They were different because I was very much known in my local area. So I did these 2 boot camps a week in Putney, London. It's one small area. And did have people coming a bit to me. I think as well, I was pre-trend with online fitness, but I could talk to women in the stage of their life because it's very hard postpartum and there wasn't the infrastructure for that.
I wonder if it's almost like women who were pregnant were more prone to early adapting because you were able to satisfy what they needed. Like you said, like this feeling of maybe self-consciousness, maybe the convenience, the time. Whereas if someone didn't have those things to think about, like, why would they go online versus not before? Because they didn't really understand the benefit. So it's interesting that
Mm.
to find that that is a group of people that were ready to accept it and try it, and they saw it was effective.
Yeah, and it's interesting even now when people know me, I still get I I can see through the searching, like people actively look for it as something they can do, but I get lots of people come back and do the
Yeah.
pregnancy after. So it's quite a nice loop. Yeah. And then I was thinking about, so I did a few switches that I started because it was new in like, I didn't have loads of people to follow, to copy, as it were, copy, be inspired by. I first launched a postpartum and it was a pay for the whole program. And you had a certain amount of months access. And then after a year, I was like, I don't know if I am really happy with that. I want to know more about the user journey. And also, I feel like for some people, having a one upfront price could be a barrier to entry. It wasn't huge, but like, I want this to be really accessible. I want to get more volume. People may stay less amount of months. So I changed it to a monthly subscription. And yes, maybe people stay a bit less than the original whole lump sum, but I feel like there was less barrier to entry for women, so I could help more people. And that subscription model did actually turn out to be like kind of what most people are doing. Like, you're not going to pay unless it's like a course or a workshop. Most things that recur each month, you're paying monthly. And I think that's just something that the customer can embed into their monthly costs.
I wanted to ask you about the subscription here because I think like it's interesting that you did the subscription model for a product which was not as common at that time to do a subscription model for. I know when my sisters were pregnant and they were searching postpartum as well, it was all the lump sum, one program, you did it on your own time, etc. And it wasn't cheap. So it's interesting this idea of introducing a different way of thinking about pricing for your product than what the market is doing because you see what your clients can use, like what actually benefits them and you change it. Was there any moments where you had to scrap something about the membership or change it or it didn't exactly go as you thought?
Challenging wise, I think the challenges have always been, and I'm really proud of myself for doing this anyway. This is like something that I could have outsourced, but I have made all the websites myself. So, oh my God, building a website, going from when I first started my website was, hello, it's Rosie. Where can you find me? I'm doing these classes. That was it. To then becoming like an online subscription service on a website with like multiple, I have like so many layers of permissions on there that people can log in, different things they can buy. Yeah, I think doing the tech has been many hours and I've had frustrating moments. Like I remember working one evening and I was trying to automate as much as I could, but this is one thing I still haven't managed to automate. So I have to approve the member, but I was like, oh, I found a workaround. And I was like, I've done it. So I think I was sending an update to people. I emailed like my whole mailing list of like 2,000 people. Then I realized like anyone could just like access any workout at any time on the whole site. And I was like, hopefully no one's logging in. It's 11:30 at night, but like I've now got to like change all the permissions. And it's just one of those things you're sat there going like, oh, how long is this going to take? But doing it yourself means that if anything goes wrong, you can fix it. I know there are people better than me at tech. There are graphic designers. There are amazing web designers. If I outsourced to them every single time I wanted to make a change, I mean, maybe if they'd done it in the first place, I wouldn't have to make any changes. But if I had to outsource every time, it would be, $500, for their time, their great professional time. Whereas I know if I want to go and make a tweak, upload a different picture, do anything on the website, I can just pop in and do it. So learning all these different skills, even the filming of the content, editing, we all do that. If you're on Instagram now, you become a video editor, a content copywriter, an expert in angles. There's like so many different elements, but
Yeah, I love it too because this is the thing is that even if you're starting out and you can afford it for whatever reason you want to spend that money, if you don't understand it, then you don't know when you're being ripped off, and you don't understand how to communicate what the problem is, and
So
that's a
yeah,
big thing for websites.
you're so right. And I think yeah, when it goes like when something goes wrong and you've got someone in a different time zone or something who does your website and you're thinking, great, I've got to put the thing on the front, say under construction again. You probably don't even know how to do that. I just think it's so good doing some things yourself if you can.
Yeah, it's so important. I think even as you get further in your career, because you've been doing it for a while now, but still having those skills. The other day, I was transferring a domain to a new host and I was having a nightmare of it. And my husband was like, "Oh, let me help you." And I was like, "I can't, I don't have time to explain why the DNS servers are over here and this." And he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I know a little bit about what you're talking about, actually.
But it is that you are like kind of a tech entrepreneur,
Oh,
kind
I
of,
know. I
it's there.
sometimes say, because sometimes we meet people who don't really know what I do. And then I don't want to say, well, I don't really care what I say, but like I could say, oh, I have an Instagram community and I do these online workouts. But then I basically sometimes just say, oh, yeah, I have a tech platform. And then I say, like, I have a fitness platform. And I say, like, it's basically and I kind of make it that it is because it's kind of like that.
It is that. I mean, that's completely what it is, and you have to change language when you're talking to I wish there was a word for people who aren't entrepreneurs besides normal, but and when you're talking to non-entrepreneurial people, non-business owners, you have to
Yeah.
think about how do you explain it?
People who are
It's not
working in the
easy.
kind of, yeah, traditional career path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Do you when would you say then that the biggest struggle that you had was with the tech, or was there other aspects of the business that were more challenging for you or that you took longer to learn? These don't even need to be physical things. It could be mentally getting your mind around it. Was there anything like that that sticks out from the first few years?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big challenge always for me has been, I know I have a great product, but it's scaling. I see people like, oh, their app, and it's just like gone sky high. And you feel like I have a very like robust, community, but like just I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this new product. So I've got my workouts. I'm not gonna add too much more. I'm gonna scale. Now that's like the holy grail. And then my husband did the MBA. He's like, oh, I just would love to help you. Like wish we could do it together. And I'm like, come on, help me. But like, I just don't know the answer for that yet. And that ties in with my other thing the one thing I do outsource is like a digital marketing company. And I think it's obviously we're all online. We see the ads. The jury's out on how does this work? First of all, it changes all the time. The different things that work with ads. They're great. They know all this stuff that I don't know. That's something I thought I could spend hours reading blogs and books. It's not my job to know about the algorithm of like Meta and Google and how to best place my ads. So they're doing that great, but it's expensive and like that's a challenge for me to look at and I think that's also a lot of women I've spoken to have said the same. Like, I like to know my money's coming in, I know what I'm spending it on, and I want to know I want to know what I've got and I want something in the bank. Whereas a few guys I've spoken to are like, just try it. Throw 10 grand at it. Throw this at the ads. You got to see what sticks. And I'm like, I don't want to see I do want to see what sticks. That's the holy grail. If I can know that I can scale what I'm spending on my ads times 10 and it maybe gives me times 20 growth, I will do it. I will definitely do it. But for me, that's my own barrier. I've got mental barrier and also maybe I'm cautious. I'm not sure. I want to know that what I'm spending my money on is like value for money. And it's really hard with the internet ads because money's going out. A lot of money goes out on them. And I know what my people,
Yeah.
I get the customers and I know the lifetime value and all that. It is balancing, but there are times when it's like, oh, I'd like it a bit more, more balanced. So that's something that's challenging for me. And I think, yeah, onwards and upwards with that. And I'm a busy mum and that thing, I know the challenging thing niggles me because that's the one thing that I have less time to focus on because I'm quite literally like making the content, making sure it's uploaded. I've got a few workshops, like my actual physical teaching. I've got, a course coming up and this, and I've got my clients. So then the bottom of the pile is always a bit like, oh God, I've got to make these Instagram ads and like, quick, let's make them. But I would love to like spend more time delving into that. So it's finding when you're alone
Yeah.
and you're just doing it like, and again, I could outsource that maybe I will, but I feel it's very authentic when I do it myself. So it's that balance of where to spend your time, I find quite challenging, especially with two young
Yeah.
kids.
You're doing it amazingly though, because you've created this great community where they really feel close to you. But this is a struggle that I feel too. I think is always content creation versus marketing and sales. And how do you divide the time across all of those? Easy to get stuck in the creation and not have the time for the marketing or the sales, especially when you have a family that you're taking care of. Like that's a whole nother, where do you find the time to fit it in? And
It's
yeah, I think that
100%
there's
that.
no one answer.
No, it's prioritizing. And I think you go through certain stages of being able to do more one than the other. I know this is one of my failings. I think as well, it's just, I have been in the thick of it for about 7 years because I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I would love to get the time where, and it will come. I know it will come because one of them will go to school longer and I'll then be like, Monday's my marketing day, Tuesday's my this day. And I think I'll feel really calm.
And this is kind of a question I want to make sure I ask you before we go is like you've done an incredible job of positioning yourself as an expert, as a thought leader in the space that you're in. And
Oh,
you've done
thank
that
you.
while having a
Wow.
family. No, but you really have. I mean, the thing is that you're part of the Women's Health Collective. You're writing for these very big publications and being paid to do it. So you're recognized as someone that has this knowledge. Can you share a little bit about what was the journey like to get into that as well? Because I think that's a really important component if you are offering online services to have this credibility and
Mm.
to reach people in different ways.
That is something when you sent your questions, I wrote down actually, because you said, what's a challenge? And I was like, it's creating this authenticity and expertise that translates well digitally. Because I love teaching. I so miss teaching a big class in person and having that feedback and chat and, really getting into what people need. And then you're doing it on a screen. It's very hard to, first of all, portray yourself. And I'm lucky, firstly, I feel like I have a certain amount of privilege being this dance training and like theatre training. So already I'm able to speak sort of on a camera because some people, that's a huge barrier of entry, even like wanting to show their face. I mean, you still get days where you're like, oh God, do I have to like put the camera on? But so it's that an element of presenting. Yeah, I think I've tried to not go with, it's cutting out the waffle online and like the clickbait ability to like kind of sink to the lowest common denominator. And, this in the pregnancy space, there's people shouting, want to like not put on weight when you're pregnant. It's just a really awful message. So I've tried to keep my messaging really supportive and show where I can like add value with my actual skills, that I've trained for all my life. So that's how I try to portray myself. And then that's led to other things. I have to say, like, I was really lucky. I got like quite a few like celebrity clients. So that boosted me up. People knew about me through them. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's, influence is from other people. Like can be very helpful and the right people.
Social proof.
So absolutely. And it gets a wider range of eyeballs you'd never be able to, whether that's someone wearing your scarf that you made, but the right people, the right kind of influencers are just so valuable to a entrepreneur, I think. Brand rep, you could call them, but I had quite a few people who endorsed me, and I really also actively sought people who were well respected. So I had like ex-Olympians who had babies, really famous doctors who were sort of on TV, doctors who had their babies, as well as singers and other people from, other entrepreneurs. I also did have a PR for press, like a comms lady for press, which helped hugely. I don't have her anymore, but she helped me get in a few magazines. It wasn't paid work, but that was great for like raising profile. But then the stuff I'm doing now for the newspapers, I kind of got myself just through contacts, and people I've written for them before, and they've said, oh, actually, can you write this column? And that's really nice to be asked back. So I think it's just, and this is not to say I won't do all this stuff, but I have a lot of ideas, and I had to stop myself. Like I wanted to do, let's do a retreat, let's do a day, let's do a meetup, let's do this and that. But, and actually my husband's been really helpful about like, well, what will that add to your current goal of selling your online programs? And I'm like, I know, but it would be so great to like meet all these people in person. And like, he's like, but that will take you, how many hours is that going to take you to organize that could be spent on your marketing or like your growing or whatever, or just spent with your kids? And I'm like, you're right. Okay.
It's not all luck though, right? Like there had to be some things that you did to put yourself in the position where these celebrities and these people trusted you to come on board. Like what do you think it is that started that
Yeah.
chain of getting
Okay.
in that
Yeah.
path?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a good trainer. Like I'm a good trainer, and I was just presenting my info, and I tried to make people found me on Instagram to begin with. I really tried to make an effort to be informative. And I know loads of people doing that for years and years and don't get picked up, like don't grow much. But I just was plugging away at it. I've always been very supportive of everyone else in social media. So if someone, you know, and some people do that to me too. So a lot of people don't know, I have to say. But if I see something nice, I'll make an active effort to comment saying, "Oh, that's really great information, blah, blah, blah." I've been doing that side of things a long time as well. And what's interesting is you might not feel like anyone's like you do these videos, and like I do something about fitness. People just really actually want to know about motherhood on my page. They just want to know about the highs and lows. But ultimately, I've got to bring it back to fitness. So I keep doing these helpful, I think, fitness posts, and they may not get as much engagement as some of the other stuff. But still, if you look at the numbers, not feeling like it's like doing very well, because you just don't know who's seeing that. Anyone in the world could see that. Like, you know, the most famous person in the world could come across your little post. And then, so yeah, keep the content good, I think. Keep the quality content. I think that's just what worked for me. And I just kept plugging away.
I see how you've built this community and you have the engagement, and to the outside eye that doesn't know the years you've put in, it's like, wow, she's one of those lucky ones that just Instagram loves and she's doing super well with
Oh
it.
no.
But it
No.
was work.
It was work. And also I
It's
feel
work.
like there are so many, this app, if anyone's on it and feeling like, oh God, I'm the same as you. I try to go off it a lot. Hopefully it's not listening to me now, but I it's it can be extremely hard. And I think the earlier days as well, when you're like, for me now to make a video quickly, I'm a quick editor now, and I can think my content in advance, and I'm like, doesn't take me too long. It still takes me a while. But if you're someone who's like, oh my God, it's taken me 3 hours to make this video, and now like 100 people have seen it, and like, oh, what's the point? Just keep going, because you're going to get quicker at the videos. Think of content that you can put out that's interesting and valuable, but could be quick for you to create. And it's still a struggle for anyone, even with a bigger following. And there's people I've seen in my space who I think they're doing a really good job, but I'm like, how are you getting that growth day by day? You know, you plateau, so there's so many things that can affect you with social media. So remember, you're more than that. You actually have a business that's not just online on Instagram. And I kind of felt, this is probably, I don't think my audience felt this, but I was like, oh, is it devaluing me even? Like that I'm now just like bopping around doing like an ad for some skincare as well as my fitness stuff. But I was like, oh, I'm not sure. So I'm glad actually that it happened, but I'm really glad to have segued out of it.
And we've had people on the show talk about the different ways that they've found their audience. And I think you're one of the few that did it on Instagram. And it's interesting to see because you have succeeded in doing it, but you were there working on it regularly. And it still is something that you think about. And yeah, I always go back and forth between deleting it or not, but
It's a powerful tool for an entrepreneur and a solo entrepreneur.
Yes.
Like, you'll never be able to connect
Yeah.
with the people that you want to. You have to be outreaching to the real world, the wider world, if you want to sell, I guess. And that's what it comes down to. We're trying to sell, right? And the app, I think the issue is when people don't remember the app is a selling app.
Yeah. I think that it's exactly this. It's figuring out what are you using it for, and that makes a difference. I love it for connecting to people like yourself, like being able to have that community, being accessible to people in my community,
Yeah, because we
having
met
the
on
direct
there. Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
We've met on there, yeah.
Because you've got to use it as a tool. You can't let it use you.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna wrap up here with the final important question, which is connecting with you. Because I think if anyone's listening and they are interested in what you do, but also in how you do it, how do you create this community of people that really respect, love, and want to work with someone? You're an amazing person to see and to view. So how can they find you if
That's
they're
so
listening?
kind. Oh, well, so I'm most active on Instagram, Mamawell UK. So it's Mamawell UK. And that's daily life. And I throw in a lot of fitness tips and a lot of tips for like it's balance, mental health, movement for mental health, being a mum, and lots of travel and kind of fun stuff too. Mamawell.org, and everything should be clear on there. And a soon to be launched app. So hopefully that will be an update and a glow up to the Mamawell experience. So yeah, that's where you find me.
Oh, I love that. Well, congratulations on the app. And